won the World Cup. It is the fourth time.
Welcome back to Women's Cricket Chat. Today it's just me. Alex is too busy doing an actual job, but I have time on my hands and way more fun things to do. And today I'm very happy to say I'm joined by the wonderful Esther de Lange. Esther, welcome to the podcast. Finally, it's taken many a WhatsApp, a trip to Jersey, a very cold trip to Jersey, but finally got you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So, obviously, I know you very well, but our listeners don't. So, Esther is a former Dutch international women's cricketer, former captain, and now you're a bigwig at the ICC. So, just let our listeners know what it is that you do now.
I'm Esther de Lange, and I work in the Europe team of the ICC Global Development Team. So, we've got a team of people. A small team of people who are supporting the European associate members of the ICC with the growth of cricket. My role specifically is a development officer, which means that I look after the growth and development of the game, and I support those 32 countries with education, with participation programs, and with some high performance support as well.
And so for you, you've come through the system in the Netherlands. What was it like growing up for you, and how did you get into cricket in the first place?
Yeah, I grew up in a town called Utrecht, right in the middle of the Netherlands, and cricket is not a major sport. Was not a major sport when I was growing up, but it was there, and one of the oldest clubs in the Netherlands is actually in Utrecht, Kampong. And they did an outreach program in the mid-90s when I was a youngster in schools, where they basically handed out some flyers and they organized some introductory sessions. And that's how I got involved. I knew about the game because I'd seen it on the BBC. So I knew that the game existed and I was quite curious about it. So when that flyer came through, I just thought, oh, that's a great opportunity to try something new. I joined the winter training sessions, and I absolutely loved it. I wasn't very good at it, but I just really enjoyed, especially fielding, running after a tennis ball and throwing it back and things like that. I really enjoyed that. Because I was generally quite a sporty kid anyway, so I tried loads of different games and loads of different sports, but cricket's the one that stuck, and the one that I've basically stuck with for until now and for the foreseeable future.
What else did you play, and did you find that they helped your cricket? What's the big one for women in the Netherlands, would you say? Is it football?
No, at the time it wasn't. At the time it wasn't football. I'd say it's definitely football now, but I was a massive football nut when I was growing up. And I did try to play competitively when I was younger, but there weren't any girls' teams to join. So I joined a boys' team. I had a terrible experience. It really was not good. So I left pretty quickly and kind of became disenfranchised with football after that. But the other sports that I did do for a long time, I played badminton for about 6 years.
At a young tall as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it was something my dad played badminton as well, so it felt like a natural fit. So I did badminton. I did taekwondo as a teenager, but I also did loads of other sports like athletics, table tennis. What else did I do? Just loads of different things that I was trying out. Bit of tennis occasionally, but yeah, badminton was probably the big one that I did consistently for a long period while I was growing up. And I do think that did help my cricket purely in terms of athletic development, hand-eye coordination. And it also, I think, helped in a way where badminton is very much a solo sport. And I was quite competitive and therefore not a great loser when I was playing badminton.
I know this one, and I don't know what I've played badminton, like we used to play it in PE at school, and it was one of those ones that would just bring out the worst in me because we didn't play it that much. So as soon as we did, it got super competitive.
Yeah, and that I was absolutely like that. I was super competitive and I was quite hard on myself. I was also playing a level above my age group, so I was playing out of my age group, but if I lost, I'd had a really bad time of it. But then when I went to cricket, because it was a team sport, and as we know, it's an individual team sport, but it was a whole different experience to be in a team environment and to then kind of not feel the whole weight of responsibility resting on me, I guess, for winning or losing a game. Or if I had a bad day, I could still contribute in another way and contribute to the win. So that was, I think, in terms of perspective, I think it's good I went through that experience of playing badminton when I was younger.
And when those flyers were brought to your school, what kind of age were you, and how many girls took it up?
I think I was about 10 years old, 10 or 11, when I took it up. There were not that many girls, especially from my school. There basically the club Kampong had a junior team in every age group at the time, and in every year or every junior setup, like under 11s, under 13s, under 15s, there was one girl in each, basically. Which is already more than some other clubs, but especially at the time. But there were no other girls in my age group really. I did try to get my friends involved, but it didn't take, unfortunately, at the time.
Yeah. And what was that like, sort of being the only girl? Was it quite hard?
It was, compared to the experience that I'd had within the football setting, it was a breath of fresh air. That felt very welcoming, but looking back on it, there was still it was very much you're the only girl in a boys team, and therefore that's kind of sets you apart from the rest. I think my own team was generally pretty good. They're always welcoming and a nice bunch, but then some of the opposition maybe not so much. They had a tendency to give me a hard time. Yeah.
And how did you manage that one? Did you give it back, or did you just let your performances do the talking?
Yeah, I think I just absorbed it, and I'd never talk back, but it would just make me more determined to do well. If I was getting some comments while I was batting or something like that, or when I was playing men's games, it became quite fun to kind of mess with the guys, because they tend to get quite upset if they get hit for 4 by a young woman, and then they start doing funny stuff like changing their run-ups or changing the speed that they're bowling at, and it's generally quite predictable. So I had some fun messing with them a little bit. So yeah, that was my way of dealing.
Nothing more fragile than a male ego playing against.
No, absolutely.
We've learned that one. And I remember we talked about this when we were on the podcast in Jersey, and we talked about having to wear men's kit and being swamped by it. Was that something you had to deal with at the time, in sort of massive pads and huge shirts that you're having to like tuck into everything?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, generally the clothing that was available was men's clothing, and the equipment that was available was men's equipment. So bats that are too heavy, pads that are too big, shirts that are in men's sizes, and therefore you're swimming around in them. Now I'm quite tall and I've got relatively broad shoulders, but I know that there were girls when we were playing for the Netherlands. We would play in the hand-me-downs from the men's teams, and some of the other players were absolutely drowning in they would be given a men's large when what they needed was a women's medium, and the difference was quite significant. So usually with the trousers there was a bit of like, okay, let's fold over the bottoms and make sure that they're not dragging along, and with the shirts it's tucking them in, and we didn't tailor them, I guess, but there was a bit of that going on for sure.
And we'll come back to that stuff in just a minute, but I want to know how you went from just getting a flyer, playing as the only girl on a men's team, to then making your way to moving into the national side.
Yeah, so that was an ambition from quite early on, actually. So I think when I was 13, 12 or 13, I saw the Dutch women play, and I was like, I want to do that. That's it. I know what I want to do with my life, and this is what it looks like. So that inspiration was kind of always there, the ambition. But for a long time, I was quite far off. Obviously, still learning the game, playing in junior cricket, and there wasn't really a pathway structure in the same way that there is now. But eventually, I did get an opportunity when I was 17 to trial for the under-21s. And that went pretty well. So I basically got snapped up immediately into the under-21 setup. And yeah, basically from there on out, I represented the under-21s for a couple of years, and then made my senior debut in 2005. Yeah, it sounds like a natural progression, which obviously there was a bit of hard work that went into it. But yeah, that's it started with that under-21s opportunity to I'll never forget the trial, because I was so nervous, and I was like, I really have to
I hate
do
trials.
well here.
I hate trials. I never play well at trials. I get too stressed. No, I hate. Oh.
Yeah, so yeah.
You were pretty good at those then.
Well, thankfully that day it went really well. I think I took 2 or 3 catches, I scored some runs and took some wickets. And I remember the coach at the end of the day, when we were all getting together, they were handing out information about the program that was coming up, and she just put one in my hands and basically said, yeah, you definitely need this. So that gave me so much comfort to say, I think I did okay here.
That's such a relief as well. You don't have to go home at the end of the day and be like, oh God, did I do that wrong? Did I do that? Wait for every time, I don't know, the landline rings. When did we stop using landlines? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was still the landline at the time. I'm showing my age, but that's okay. No, it was definitely still the landline, but you used to get a letter. So there'll be a letter in the post saying congratulations, you've been selected for the Dutch under-21s team, and here's some information.
The people that didn't get in, did they just not get a letter?
Like
Hogwarts.
It felt like Hogwarts, yeah. I remember yeah, opening that letter again, nerves are in tatters, and you open that letter and you get the good news, and yeah, just kind of like having a little private party.
Love that. It's like the days of when people open their A-level results in a piece of paper rather than online. You know, you have that like sick feeling when you're clicking it and you're like, oh God, and opening. No, none of that. PTSD. Don't even think about exam results. No. So obviously it's, you know, been a while since you made that debut back in 2005. What was it like being part of that international side? Because I remember you saying you were having to work at Starbucks alongside because it wasn't funded, you're having to pay your way. How hard did that make it for you?
Yeah, incredibly hard. I mean, so when I made my debut in the senior team, I was one of the youngest players in that squad, and there was quite a tight-knit group. So I found it quite daunting and quite intimidating, because I was coming in as a newbie and basically taking someone's place, and yeah, you don't automatically get into the squad and feel comfortable. It takes quite a bit of time, actually.
Did that make you feel more pressure?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because every time you do get an opportunity, you have to do well, because you have to show why you've earned your place. And then if you don't stand out, then you feel like, maybe I've let the side down, or have let myself down by not being a standout. So it was quite an intimidating environment to come into, and yeah, it took a long time to adjust. And I wasn't a kind of a shoe-in for selection and at that time as well. So I was kind of in and out of the senior team from probably like 2007. I got basically put back into the Netherlands A side, and had to work my way back into the senior squad a couple of years later. But yeah, that was, I mean, trying to balance studies, work, cricket, and I kind of had the mindset of, I'm going to put cricket first. So whatever decision I made was based around how it was going to impact my ability to train and play. And therefore, so when I started looking for work, it was also on the back of the 2008 financial meltdown. So work was hard to come by anyway. but when I started looking, there just wasn't anything really it wasn't that much available, but also the things that were available would have meant giving up cricket altogether. So yeah, then made the decision to start working at Starbucks, and that offered me the opportunity to keep playing, and while still making enough to get by
and remaining caffeinated.
Yeah, well, honesty here, I never drank coffee before I worked at Starbucks. I only started drinking coffee, and now I drink all the time. Drink the coffee. Yeah, I learned a lot about coffee. I learned a lot about I learned a lot about myself working at Starbucks. Now, it was, to be honest, it was actually a really valuable opportunity and a really valuable experience. And I was telling somebody the other day around, working in a kind of a high stress, high pressure environment, with people from loads of different backgrounds, dealing with difficult situations, dealing with customers who get upset about very random things, and that really taught me a lot, and a lot of the skill sets that I developed then I'm still accessing now when things are under pressure, or when things are.
How do you deal with those Aggie customers? And also, question, did you ever purposely spell people's names wrong on their cup? Because recently I've had a Gigi and a Judy, and I thought I could pronounce my own name quite well, but it appears not.
Yeah, I always took a lot of pride in getting people's names right. So I would always be the one to take an extra second to ask the question, oh, is that Sarah with an H, or is that, do you spell that with a G or with a K? Like something like that. Like I would always ask the follow-up question, make sure I got it right. And I know that went down quite well, but yeah, in terms of dealing with difficult customers, I think the main thing is to try and stay calm and not meet them in their stress level, if that makes sense. So yeah, just try and stay calm and businesslike, rather than going along in whatever's making them angry. And it's not easy, but it's one of those things, like it's you have to deal with it.
It translates nicely into the rest of your life and dealing with people, I guess.
It really does. No, it really does. And yeah, you dealing with or working with people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different languages, and that's definitely something that I'm doing every day today. So all very beneficial. And then also it allowed me to coach on the side as well. So I started my own coaching business while I was working at Starbucks and while I was playing. So I was trying to combine everything.
And how long did you stay there while still playing international cricket and still coaching? Because that sounds like a very busy day. Was sleep just not a thing?
No, sleep was not a thing. Rest was not really a thing. And I did that for 5 years. 5 years in total, I think it was. So yeah, that was pretty intense, not gonna lie. It was especially like spending 8 hours on your feet, running around, making drinks, and then going into a national team training where you're doing fitness for an hour and having to do squats. I remember quite clearly how painful that was. And then all these teenagers around me, because they're all like 16-year-olds, like, oh yeah, I'm a bit tired from school. I'm like, are you really?
You sat down all day. Maths isn't that tiring.
Yeah, so that was always that was difficult, but rest wasn't really a thing, and it did affect, I guess, the ability to play to the best of my ability, looking back on that. And I've had loads of conversations with women who are now getting an opportunity to be professional cricketers, and one of the biggest things that they say is that I finally have a time to actually rest and make sure I sleep enough. And when I've had a big game day, I can take the next day off and just lie in bed all day. And then I just have those memories of coming back from tour on a Monday morning, where we've been to England over the weekend, played Saturday, played Sunday, fly Monday morning at 6 a.m. and at 10 o'clock my shift starts in Utrecht. So that was that was kind of the lifestyle I was living. So just going from one thing to the next, and pretty relentless. But yeah.
Do you ever feel
looking
like you're
back on
leading
it,
sort of this weird double life?
yeah, a little bit. Yeah, because I had tours where I had my Starbucks clothing packed in my cricket equipment, and then so I because I knew that it was going straight from the airport into a shift, and then I would hide my cricket bag in the kitchen behind where I was working, and get changed, and then on the floor. And yeah, it is a little bit like Clark Kent coming out of the phone box. Except it was me coming out in my Starbucks uniform.
That's fantastic. Do you ever sort of look at even just Dutch players now and want in your head be like, you don't know how easy some of you have got this, you know? My cricket bag is hidden under a fridge somewhere in the back room.
Yeah, so I think there's been a lot of progress, but I know that the girls in the team right now, they do work hard, and they've got their own challenges to deal with. But yeah, sometimes you do think, oh, come on, you know, it's gotten a lot better. It's definitely got a lot better in the last 7-8 years. So yeah, I hope that they realize it's hard when you're young to kind of see that, and to see what generations before you have done and have had to do. But I do hope that they are aware. I think to an extent they are, but yeah, sometimes you're not sure.
Yeah, and so Netherlands have previously been in the World Cup. I think the last one was in 2000, am I right? And obviously that's before your time, because you're young and fresh and wonderful. Can they make another World Cup? And is that something that you ever think that is something I really wish I'd been able to do in my career, go to a World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, for myself, that was the thing that motivated me the most. Like my desire to try and qualify for a World Cup was what fueled everything else. Because every couple of years we would have an opportunity to qualify for a global qualifier, and then at a global qualifier to see if we could get to that World Cup stage. And we came agonizingly close, and I do say agonizingly close. We lost by 2 runs to Ireland in 2013, and that meant that Ireland went to the World Cup and we didn't. And you know, that was devastating, but at least we got an opportunity to try, and at least we got an opportunity to compete. I do think it's possible. I absolutely think it's possible for the Netherlands to come back in and play in a future World Cup. I think it's very hard. There's a lot of competition. There's teams playing now that hadn't even started playing last time that the Dutch were in the World Cup. And yeah, there's the standard is getting higher. I know that the team has got a lot better. I saw them play in Spain, and I was really impressed with the progress that they've made. But there's still a lot of room for growth, and I think they know that as well. And it's a very young team. But yeah, in the future, I would hope that definitely the Netherlands will get another opportunity to play the World Cup, and it also will help when the World Cup is expanded, because currently there's a lot of good teams that are missing out. So if there's more teams in that World Cup, there's obviously more opportunity for teams to play. But yeah, I know for myself that was the biggest thing that I was hoping to achieve while playing for the Netherlands, and I didn't manage to achieve that, unfortunately. But we got pretty damn close.
And how do you come back from something like that? Because obviously there's the devastation of it, and then you have to think, right, will I be around to do the next one, or where am I going to be in my career? And then obviously you were named captain just a few years after that as well. So it must have been quite a whirlwind few years for you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that we really took a hit on that one, I would say, and we had a couple of years as well where we lost a lot of senior players, because they were like, oh, sorry, I'm gonna have to start my career now outside of cricket, and so they left even though they would still have had, you know, time to play, or time in their careers, because they weren't that old. Yeah, we just had to rebuild, and we had to rebuild from scratch. But every time something like that happens, it was like, okay, well, let's see if we can come back better and stronger next time around. And I think when I took over the captaincy was when we'd really lost quite a few really good players in a short space of time, and for me, it was about, okay, we need to build this team up, and we need to give all these young players around me, because they literally were, 14 to 18 years old.
Yeah, you feel like you're a babysitter, like taking them on a school trip at that point.
I mean, I didn't want to say it. No, but there was quite a significant age gap, because I was, at the time, I was 30 and they were in their mid-teens. So it does create this massive gap between you. But at the same time, it was like, okay, well, I've got to make sure we get this team the best opportunity and get them ready in the best way. And what I said to them after, because we lost out on qualification again while I was captain, and I said to them, okay, let's look at the next 2 years as an opportunity for everyone to get older, wiser, stronger, more experienced. And yeah, the rebuild that starts today, basically. So unfortunately we didn't make it this time around, but there will be another opportunity in a couple of years' time, and all of you are young enough to go for it and to really do something special. And yeah, I was only captain then for 2 years, because then I left for England to take up my current role. And but they did do it. They did take up the challenge in that way. And a couple of years later, they did end up qualifying for the global qualifier. And I think for the last, like I was saying, for the last 7 years, there's probably been this massive kind of upward trajectory for the squad, and the way that KNCB have invested in them as well has been really great to see, and really positive. And I think it's starting to pay off in the performances as well.
And what was it like when you were told that you were going to become captain? And what was your leadership style like? I want to know what an Esther team talk is like. What
was it like for me when I became captain? I mean, I really was the only candidate at the time, and so there was a little bit of, I felt quite a lot of weight on my shoulders, also because I was working within the association at the time and trying to carve out the right opportunities for the team.
And you'd moved on from Starbucks by this point?
Yeah, I had. Yeah, I've been taken up a role within Dutch cricket as a development officer and head of the girls' pathway as well. So there was a lot of internal wrangling, so to speak, to make sure that we had the right coaches, the right managers, the right playing opportunities and things like that. And that was a lot of that work that the most of the team were never aware of. But that took up probably most of my attention. And then in terms of team talks, I always tried to be positive as much as possible, inspired by the captains I played under, like Helmine Rambaldo. She would always say, come on, don't forget to enjoy it. And Denise Hanema, same thing, she was enjoy. So I still say that all the time, even now when I'm playing club cricket. It's like, come on, let's enjoy. And so I tried to work that in. But yeah, I think one thing I tried to do was lead by example. So I know when the chips were down, I was always the one who was digging in, trying to get us to a score, or get us closer to the win, even in quite dire situations when we're playing against stronger oppositions. And I was always hoping that would inspire those around me to do the same, and to keep fighting. Because the one thing I don't like is a team just folding and giving up. I always want to see that fight. And even if you end up losing, at least you've gone for it and you've tried and given it your all. So I guess that was my leadership style at the time, I guess.
And was there ever a time you just were like, this is too hard, I can't hack this?
Yes, there was very difficult tours, and there was one particular one when we were in Thailand where the coach handed in his notice halfway through the tour. Our assistant coach had to fly home for personal circumstances. There were rumblings in the back end. Just basically we'd made all these agreements up front about how we were going to arrange it, and how we were going to operate with the team. And none of those were followed. And yeah, so I was also struggling with my own fitness. I had an asthma attack when we were on the preparation tour. but that went undiagnosed. So yeah, I mean, that was pretty difficult to deal with. And then obviously the disappointment of again losing to Zimbabwe by 2 runs. that was quite devastating. Yeah, so it was just one thing after another. So that was quite a difficult tour, I think, for me. There have been other difficult tours, but that one I was captain, and yeah, I also got the yips on that tour, so that wasn't great.
Oh, it's never ideal. Never ideal
No,
one,
no.
especially on a tour. And at that point, do you think, how am I going to manage this when the team are looking to me as the leader and I'm also not performing how I would like to?
Yeah, I mean, I remember a conversation I had with the assistant coach on that tour, because I wasn't coping very well, and she's like, "Yeah, you're just gonna have to really dig deep and stay strong for the squad."
Was it a fake it till you make it kind of stage?
Yeah, basically. And I remember sitting on the bus on the way to the ground and just stealing myself. And then basically, as soon as we left the bus, I was like, okay, let's do this. And then she said to me afterwards, like, yeah, well done. You know, you really, you really held yourself together really well. And I know that wasn't easy. So she did recognize that it took quite a lot to come out of the bus that day and just put on a happy face and try and motivate everyone else around me when I was quite low in my own in my own time, basically.
Yeah, that's a really tricky one, I guess, having to sort of put that mask on and you're like, the last thing I want to do right now is put on this shirt and go and play. I just want to go home and play video games or whatever else you would do to take your mind off things. Who knows? Also, during your time, you went over to Australia to play for a bit. What was that like?
Yeah, that was amazing, but also really hard. So I went to Australia as a player coach, and I'd just done my level 3 course, and I was basically using that experience in Australia to finish up the coursework for my level 3. And yeah, Australia's tough. Like I went to Perth, I went to WA, and when you play cricket in Australia, you know, people will tell you exactly what they think about you, and they will not make it easy for you at all. And so on the one hand, that was hard, but at the same time, that was also a really good experience to be exposed to that environment and to see how I responded to that environment. And I learned a lot. I got a lot better as a cricketer as well, just playing at that standard and facing fast bowling every day. And then I learned a lot as a coach as well in terms of what those high performance players need, because yeah, if Australians don't like something, they will tell you. If they don't agree, they're not afraid to say it. So that was a really good learning experience. But yeah, so that was great to be able to do that and to commit that time to playing and coaching in that environment. Was really amazing.
And did that experience in Australia sort of open your eyes up to what women's cricket could be like if it's given that investment, that time, and that professionalization?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the team that I played in, about half the team were also state cricketers, and they were getting opportunity to obviously play in the WNCL and then also Big Bash for some of them. And you could just see the standard going up and up, and it wasn't just the senior team that was benefiting. The junior teams, were the under 15s, under 18s, were getting massive opportunities to train and to compete at national level. I actually went along with the WACA under 15s as a team manager to the national championships. And yeah, you could just see with the amount of resource available there were just better facilities, more coaching, more competition, and just real quality opportunities for those young players to get involved and to have a pathway towards playing senior level state and then potentially international cricket. One thing I remember was when the letter came through for their selection, all the girls were told that they could bring a maximum of 80 kilograms of luggage. I was like, 80 kilograms, like surely they don't need that much. But what basically that was the standard requirement for if you're playing cricket at that standard, you get 80 kilograms that you can take. And I'm thinking about the tours that I went on where I've got 20 kgs max to try and fit everything in, and
including your Starbucks kit.
Exactly. Trying to fit it all into one bag, and like it just felt like a totally different world, like just this small difference, but actually huge in the grand scheme of things like having your name on your shirt, and like all those little peripherals were just really organized, and it just made it feel more important and more pushing it to a new level basically.
And they had kit that fitted?
Yeah, women's fit. Yeah.
And so we touched on this earlier, the talk of your Netherlands kit, and some of your kit was just handed down from the men. Did that just sort of make you feel not so much second-class citizen, but very much like second in the rankings to the men's side?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it didn't just make us feel like that. It was like that. It was kind of like, okay, we've got this left over from the guys, so there you go. That's your team kit. Or last year's model is now this year's model for us. So it was a little bit like that. There was also, sometimes take what you can get. So I think there was one of the World Cups where one of the sponsors had provided a lot of men's helmets with the Gainsby logo on it, and they didn't need them. So we just kind of went, okay, let's swipe those, and they belong to the women now because the guys don't need them. They're not going to use them. And we didn't have any branded helmets. So that's when we, for the first time, had like branded helmets with the logo on it, or at least for the first time when I was playing, because I knew it was happening before, but it was that kind of stuff really. But eventually we did get women's fit kit, which was it felt so much better immediately. I remember in the before times standing next to an England cricketer who was like fully kitted out in women's fit, and it was all brand new, and I'm standing there in my hand-me-downs thinking, oh gosh, this is this is not great, this doesn't feel good. So yeah, that was just that change already makes the team feel a lot more valued and a lot more like they're being appreciated and being invested in. So yeah, that was a positive change when that came around.
And the Netherlands, they look a pretty good side now. I kept up with what was going on at the Europe qualifiers and all of that. How much has it grown and changed since you were involved as a player?
I think the program has improved a lot for the last 6-7 years. There's been a lot of change. There's been a really good investment into the side. One thing that was changed was the training is a lot more individualized, which is fantastic, because when I was playing, it was like, okay, well, we're training on a Sunday morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And that's the opportunity we get, because that's when we have the hall available. When actually for a lot of people, that time didn't work, or it was really difficult travel-wise or energy-wise to kind of do that. Whereas now the players have got more opportunity to play when they are available. And that change came in when they hired a full-time coach who was available during the day. And so if you had some students who say, well, actually Tuesday morning is perfect because we haven't got any classes, and it means I can do my training, go to class in the afternoon, work in a cafe in the evening to make money, and it all kind of fits together just a little bit better, and it means they get increased opportunities to train, more kind of quality time with the coaches. There's more emphasis on the S&C and basically physical support. So they got a physio that they can access and things like that. So a lot of the program has just gone a lot more professional, and a lot better access to training opportunities and playing opportunities as well. Because now, if you look this year, they had a tri-series with Scotland and Thailand. They had bilaterals against Ireland, bilaterals against Jersey, and so on. So there's really good opportunity for the girls to play international cricket and to get better. And that was evident in the Spain event as well. Like, you could really see the progression that they've made in a relatively short space of time, with young players getting opportunities and building up their experience. So they're coming into that tournament, and that's not their first international game, it's actually their 7th or their 10th. And they're only 17, 18 years old, but they've had that opportunity to play. So yeah, definitely seen a lot of positive change. Obviously, would like to see participation grow more generally within the Netherlands, because it's still been probably at the same level now for the last 8 or 9 years. And it would be great to see more teams signing up. Girls cricket, make it as big as it possibly can be, because that's where the future generations are going to come from. But there's definitely around the Netherlands a team around the senior squad. There's been a lot of really positive change, and as I said, I think you can see the results on the field.
And I guess in your role as an ICC development manager, you get to sort of have a hand and an impact in what's happening across Europe. Am I right?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, that's basically, so I should probably correct you, because my role is development officer, not development manager. But
apologies, development officer, I apologize.
Sometimes when people call me development manager, I don't correct them, because it actually helps to, when we're talking to some politician in a country, I'll let them believe it. So they're happy with that. But the developments around Europe, around women's cricket, are really exciting. There's a lot of countries that are now really invested in growing the game for women and girls, and that's fantastic to see. And that's been a real shift over the last couple of years, because when I came in, a lot of the conversations we were having about how do we convince these countries that women's cricket is a good idea, and now they're coming to me saying, Esther, we really want to do more with our girls. We have set up this plan for women's cricket. Can you have a look at it with us, or can you help us, and or can you tie in some support somewhere? And that's been a real shift, I think, over the last 6 years, for sure. So it's really exciting. There's more and more countries that are forming a women's team, that are creating their domestic competitions. They're doing their outreach programs to girls and women to get involved in the game, and that's very exciting for European cricket. And that's why we've seen the European qualifier grow from 3 countries, being Ireland, Scotland, Netherlands, to now having 8 countries in the pathway, with 2 divisions this year, with a second division and a first division, and Ireland's not even in that anymore. So that's really good to see that growth, and see more countries that are meeting kind of those minimum criteria to participate, and really investing in sustainable growth of the women's game.
And I can't talk about the growth of the women's game without talking about how we met at Fairbreak. What was it like to get involved with that, and how did that come about, and how cool is that for the growth of the women's game?
Fairbreak was a fantastic opportunity for me personally. How that came about was I was already in touch with Venkat, who's obviously a big part of the organization of Fairbreak. I met him during a ICC tournament when he was an umpire, and I was literally 3 weeks into my job. So we kept in touch over the years, and he'd been telling me about this initiative. And we initially were mainly talking about, okay, well, how can we make sure we connect with European countries, and make sure that we get the right players and the right coaches, the right people are kind of involved around this event, because it is a fantastic opportunity to gain experience and to be exposed at the highest level. So that was the gist of the conversations we were having. But then the penny dropped with Venkat when he was like, well, actually, you're a coach, aren't you? And I'm like, yes, I am a coach. I do quite a bit of coaching in my spare time, and I'm quite passionate about my coaching. And I just started working towards my my level 4 at that time as well. So he's like, yeah, you're a coach. I'm like, yeah, I am a coach. It's like, oh, well, we're actually looking for more assistant coaches to come in, and would you be available? And so then I was like, okay, well, that's a fantastic opportunity. I can't really pass that up, to be honest. It's something I've always wanted to do, and yeah, to get the offer to come in and be the assistant coach of Team Spirit was basically I couldn't have asked for anything better. And yeah, the experience has been really good to get involved and to work with some fantastic players from the full member world as well as from the associate member world. There's some really quality players involved in the tournament and within Team Spirit, go green. So that's been really fantastic to get that opportunity. And I worked with Aaron Osborne as a head coach last year, and Damien Wright this year, which is also such a great opportunity to see how they approach it, and how they set the team values, set the environment, and to collaborate with them on that as well, which last year was interesting in that sense, because Aaron had not really been a head coach before, and I'd not really been an assistant coach before in a franchise, so it was very much right, let's figure this out, let's work together, and let's do this. So yeah, really great learning experience, and I took a lot away from it, and hopefully managed to contribute to the players' experience and performance on those tournaments as well.
And also meant you got to take me to Disneyland, which was obviously the highlight of your trip to Hong Kong. But that's how we met, obviously, and I agree, it's such a great initiative for both the full member nations, associate, we can call them that in inverted commas, but not just them, but like developing people around the game. You get to do more assistant coaching, I get to do more commentary that I hadn't necessarily done. It's a wonderful initiative for lots of people to get involved, and I love that. Well, I won't keep you for hours talking anymore, because I understand you probably have more interesting things to do than talk to me. And I'm sure at some point my dog's going to need to go back out in the rain. So that's my experience of the day. But we always like to round off with some sort of quick fire, more fun questions. One that we like to go to, what's your favourite item at a cricket tea?
Probably the pasta salad, if there is one, and it's vegetarian.
Oh, interesting. We get a lot of sausage roll, but I guess you can't eat those.
Well, I also have to big up Fiona Barber-Smith's scones, because they are epic.
That's funny. I love that. What's the best sledge you've ever used or heard?
Oh gosh. Okay, I'm gonna admit to this now. So I once sledged. No, I won't say it. I'm sorry. I can't.
Oh, you don't have to tell us who it was. No, I want to hear it now. Yeah.
No, well, okay. So there was a team that were in a dispute over money, and they weren't getting paid enough for they weren't getting paid enough for their efforts, and we weren't getting paid at all. So we were like, "What are you complaining about?" So when we were playing against them, and we were very much on top, and I think we had a spinner on at the time, and I said, "Oh, well, why don't we put a dollar on the pitch so she comes out of her crease?" And yeah, that was quite bad.
No, I like that. That's really good, and that's like quite clever. That's thinking in the moment. I appreciate that one. Best place you've ever played cricket? I
think I've played in many places, but my favorite place is still my home ground in the Netherlands, Kampong.
Nice. And if you could play somewhere, anywhere, where would you want to play?
I've never been to the West Indies, so I think that would be great. I've heard lots of good things, so I'd love to play there. Yeah, I mean, I think, goodness, getting an opportunity to play in a big cricket stadium would always be good. But I've done that, to be honest, I've done that in Bangladesh, and so I can't really. I had to tick that off my bucket list, because I'm like, I've done it now. playing in a stadium.
I don't need to answer this question. I've already done it. So, if not cricket, what? You can do any job in the world.
Filmmaker.
Nice, yeah, like that. And we can see your photography. So you could be a photographer. Oh, on the side. That's cool. What is your go-to order from Deliveroo or Just Eat?
Probably Indian. Actually, my flatmate ordered Indian last night, and I managed to sneak in a little bit on the order as well. So yeah, probably Indian takeaway. But I don't really have a set. Don't really have a set one.
A lot of I find a lot of people when I ask this question, they say Wagamama. It seems to be like the really easy go-to on Deliveroo.
No, you go for Indian takeaway or go for yeah, obviously pizza, but you know, that's
That's
yeah.
a given.
Yeah.
What was the last TV show you binge watched?
The last TV I binge watched probably Heartstopper. That was such a sweet show. Yeah.
Barbie or Oppenheimer?
Barbie, 100%.
Obviously.
I went to see Greta Gerwig last Sunday.
I wanted to
Incredible.
ask about that, but I didn't know if it was podcast relevant, and I was so jealous. How was she?
She was amazing. She was absolutely amazing and super inspirational. And I was like making notes on my phone of all the things that she was saying.
You're just writing, be more Greta, be more Greta, be more Greta.
Be yeah? More Greta is a great maxim, I think. No, she was very humble and very. She was very nervous because it was a big room full of people, and I'm pretty sure she doesn't do that very often. But it was fascinating just listening to her talk about, you know, how did she get to where she is right now, and basically breaking new ground as a female writer director. So I have a lot of admiration for what she's done and how she's done it. So
we're going to rename you Greta, yeah? Yes. I think I'm funny. Favorite thing to do to unwind outside cricket? Watch
films, I think.
Roller skating?
Say again?
Roller skating?
Yeah, skating as well. I mean, I've got quite a few hobbies. That's one of the downsides of when your hobby becomes your job, you've got to find a new hobby. So that's definitely something I've done. Yeah, so either skating, going for a walk, writing, photography, watching a film, all of that stuff. That all of those are different ways to, I guess, unwind and relax for sure.
Did you have any superstitions when playing cricket?
I always put my left pad on first and my left shoe on first, which I don't know if that's a superstition. It's more of a habit, and if I don't do it, it doesn't feel right. So yeah. Left sock, left shoe, left pad.
But you don't do like all of them.
No. No, it's left, right, then left,
really
right. But yes, always the left one first.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of people go left first because I think I do everything. I don't even know. Maybe I don't have one because I don't know. Favorite artist or musician? I think currently I'm pretty obsessed with that Jungle song, which is the video clip. I don't know if you've seen that. I'm not very good at knowing what music's going on. I listen to a lot of country music. I don't listen to that much music, to be honest. So I find it hard to pinpoint a favorite. And lastly, if there was something you could say to your younger self, what would you say? Keep going. It's gonna work out. No, yeah, basically keep going and keep believing that's possible. Amazing. I know that sounds very generic, but that's, but like. Generic is good because it works. That's why it's become generic, because people say it. Before we round up, where can our listeners find you on any social medias that they might want to find you on? I am on the platform formerly known as Twitter, but I don't use it that much. At ELT de Lange. I'm also on Instagram, but it's a private account, so probably the best place is on LinkedIn, to be honest. So find me on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. That is the most corporate response I've ever had to that question. And that is what happens when you work for the ICC. Find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, pretty much. Private. Esther, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been absolutely fab. And also just really nice to catch up. So thank you so much. And hopefully see you soon and we'll go skating. I need to get myself some more skates first, but we will. Yeah, let's do it.